this earth of ours. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. I just want to come on here, talk about voting on Election Day. President Trump has been saying it should be our Liberation Day. There are some problems. Yes, we still need you to go out and vote. If you have not already voted, please vote. This is very important. Number two, there are some problems. There are problems throughout California, especially California right now. And there's problems elsewhere in what should be red states that are now turned off, basically. California. California has turned off electricity in many areas of California, supposedly due to wildfires. They've turned off the electricity. So they have no electricity to power voting machines in those California cities and towns that are being affected. Number two, they've also discombobulated the machines. In some cases, it says that the machines need a new flash drive. The machine companies, the companies that manufactured the machines and keep the machines accurate, have now said that no one can hold the counties or hold the machine companies to account for any of the mistakes that are being made right now. Mistakes being made? The people that manufactured these machines and are supposed to be keeping these machines up to date, especially on Election Day, now the machines are down. That's just in California. Let's take this across the entire United States. Let's go 3,000 miles to the northeast. Over in Pennsylvania, there's a county called Cambria County in Pennsylvania. Cambria County, it's incredible. Cambria County apparently had problems with their machines. At many of the precincts throughout that county, people are waiting in line to vote and can't because there's problems with machines again. The machines say that there has to be a new flash drive installed in those machines. So they don't have those flash drives. Will they have them in time before 7 p.m. tonight when the polls close? It's unknown. Then, guess what? Somebody turned off the power. There was a huge power outage in Cambria, Pennsylvania. Now, Cambria, Pennsylvania is a almost completely red state, red county, I should say. Complete red county. Now they've had problems with the machines. They've turned off the power. They have long lines of people waiting to get in to vote. Guess what? They can't vote. Incredible. President Trump, weeks ago, told everybody that, if possible, to get out and vote before Election Day, because there's going to be lines on Election Day. Needless to say, President Trump didn't know about the problems that were going to be had with these voting machines. So people can't vote. Either the machines are down or they've turned off the electricity. So now people can't vote. We are seeing problems climb up in various other places. If you go over to Benny Johnson, The Benny Show, Charlie Kirk is also talking about this. After you leave this program here in just a few minutes, go over to Charlie Kirk. You'll be able to get a lot of good information about the polls and what's going on, and also hear more about these problems. California, Pennsylvania, and literally around the country. There are problems that we have not seen before. Never have we seen these kind of problems on Election Day. What has happened? Nobody really knows yet. Nobody knows yet. but it's becoming a major issue. It's coming to be a huge issue. So guys, if you haven't voted, try to get out to your local polling place, your precinct, and vote. It's very important. We need to make sure we turn this election red. It's problem enough that Kamala Harris and her cohort in crime, her vice presidential nominee, Walz, is a known communist. Okay? I've come out and found information today linking him with communist Chinese representatives. It's bad enough. But before he was married, he was also having an affair with the daughter of a Chinese authority. Walz was having an affair with the daughter of a Chinese authority. To make matters worse, those of you may have heard months ago about New York State and the United States government, the FBI, closing down a Chinese police precinct that opened up in New York. In case you didn't know, a police precinct opened up in New York. They called it a substation for Chinese security. What they were doing is going in and spying on not just Americans but Chinese immigrants. They were arresting those Chinese immigrants if they were not obeying what the government said they were supposed to be doing. So they were arresting these Chinese immigrants and anyone else that China thought might be a problem for the Chinese. Well, guess what? One of those same Chinese spy precincts opened up at the border region of St. Paul and Minneapolis. St. Paul is a twin city there in Minnesota. Well, guys, for the Chinese to open up a Chinese police precinct over in the border of St. Paul and Minneapolis is a huge problem. But it gets worse. Because Mr. Walz, the governor of Minnesota, has links to those Chinese security agents. Bad news. Bad news. Walz is a vice presidential nominee. It's unreal. So we have real problems with this election. The person running for president of the United States is inept. Her vice presidential nominee is a communist. Kamala Harris has said that she wanted to close down police departments around this country to defund the police. She wanted to defund Customs Border Patrol and Customs Border Enforcement. Why? So the Democrat Party could bring millions of people across the border, the southern border of the United States. This was planned. This was a huge elaborate plan so in the future that they could get these people that come across the border and get them to vote Democratic. Get them to vote blue. So that's what's going on if you didn't already know about it. Many of us already figured that out. So folks, now it's Election Day 2024, November 5th. We need to make sure that President Trump has the votes he needs to get into office. If you hear of any problems, send them to me in chat, in Messenger, or send them to my email. I want to get to those questions tonight when I go on the air at 6 p.m. So please help me with that. We'd appreciate it. Do you guys have any questions for me right now? Okay? I'm going now and pull up my chat here so I know what you guys are talking about because I can't see the chat here on my tablet. So I'm going to that chat right now. I was hoping to go to that chat right now. Okay, I've got the chat up. Do any of you have questions for me? Miss Carol's here. Yes, she is. She's sitting right across from me.
Not in the chat.
She says she's not logged into the chat, but she's here with me. Do you guys have any questions that you want to ask me? Okay. Also, if you have any real issues, let the Trump administration know. Let the Trump campaign know. Okay? It's very important that they get that information immediately.
Read the question. There's questions on there.
Cheryl M. is asking, how long do you predict before the votes are completely counted up? 2 weeks? They're supposed to have the votes counted by midnight tonight. That was the goal, okay? But with everything going on, folks, they're now saying it could be 2 or 3 weeks before all the votes are counted, including those votes that came through the mail from out of the country. Yes, technically it's supposed to be election day. Now, when I was growing up, and even up until about 10 years ago, the majority of the votes were counted before midnight. And by midnight, we knew who the new president of the United States was going to be. Now they play games. It's completely changed. It's completely changed now. But technically, it's supposed to be by midnight tonight. Canadian Patriot says, when are you going to run, Ron? Yeah, when am I going to run for president? Right now, I have no plans to run for president of the United States. Am I going to be on later? Yes. I will be on the air at 6 p.m. Canadian Patriot, you want to be my vice president? Apparently, you could do that because guess what? If Waltz, who is a known communist, run for vice president, Canadian Patriot, you could be my vice president from Canada. LOL. Oh, gosh. Yeah, Carol's supposed to make sure I'm behaving. I don't think she's got one of my leather belts here, do you, honey?
Maybe.
Maybe. Heather, I'm glad you voted. That's awesome. Yeah, Kamala was born of two parents who are not even citizens of this country. Technically, she's not even supposed to be able to be president of the United States herself. It's against the law. What they're doing is against the law. It's always been against the law. Yes, American Mutt, she's not eligible, but she's there. Nobody's challenged her. Okay, Heather hasn't voted because her hand is in a cast. Do you guys have any questions for me? I just wanted to make this a short podcast here to come on the air and tell you that there are problems with the voting, and these problems with the voting are probably rampant throughout the entire country. So that's what's happening. Okay. Any other questions? Canadian Patriot says we have more votes than Kamala has. I believe that. Because up until this morning, even this morning at about 7 or 8 a.m., it looked like this country was red. This country was red across the country, except for, of course, California, Oregon, Washington, New Mexico, and Colorado. Matthew's asking, do all states have a heavy police force since they expect violence or riots? Most of these states do have police forces. State police are there. Each state has National Guard that they could call up. Now, Governor Inslee from Washington called up the Washington National Guard. He did that because they have had problems with Antifa there. So he called up the Washington National Guard to stand by in case something was going to happen. And he does expect Antifa to cause problems this afternoon and tonight. That wouldn't surprise me. Not at all. And that could happen anywhere around the United States and Washington as well. Washington, the federal government put up heavy-duty fences around the Capitol and the White House this past week. They're expecting problems. Earlier this year, even as late as early summer, we had protesters from Palestine protesting the government, and they were knocking down the fence that they had around the White House. The fence almost got knocked down if it wasn't for Capitol Hill Police and also the Secret Service that kept that fence up. Now they put up these heavy-duty steel fences. I think that might help, okay? But with everything going on, anything can happen. Yes, Heather, the Democrat Party in California will not let California ever go red. North San Diego County has always been Republican up until the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, the Democrat Party has infiltrated North San Diego County. That's been a problem. It's been a huge problem. When I was involved in politics in San Diego County years ago, I was a campaign manager for then Congressman Ron Packard. He asked me and one of his other friends to be for his campaign when he ran for Congress the first time. Then after that, I became the campaign manager for 6 years until he became so popular that all you had to do is put his name on the ballot and he'd get elected. Now the Democrats have infiltrated North San Diego County, and it's not as red as it used to be. Parts of East County, San Diego, were also red. But even the Democrats have infiltrated East County, San Diego. So San Diego is not red at all. San Diego is not red at all. It's more blue than anything. Sage Pup was talking about Peanut and Fred the raccoon. Yes, that is very bad. Now, if you guys really want more information about Peanut and Fred the raccoon, there's all kinds of information on TikTok if you have TikTok, and there's all kinds of information on Instagram. Mr. Longo, Mark Longo is what his name is, and his wife is Dani, D-A-N-I. They have an account on Instagram, and they continue to put up information on Instagram. It's a bad thing, okay? Now, the state of New York knew what they were doing. The Longos moved they didn't used to be citizens of New York. They moved into New York after they bought a huge piece of property in New York to establish a rehab facility for animals. Not just horses or cattle or sheep or goats, but all kinds of animals. Mr. Longo had always had Peanut the squirrel. Where did they get the raccoon, Fred the raccoon? Somebody dumped him off.
Drop them off at their house.
They dropped him off at their house to rehabilitate him. Yes, they were trying to rehabilitate him to release them both out into the wild again. Mr. Longo had many times during the past 7 years that he's had Peanut, he tried to release Peanut back out into the wild. Both times Peanut came back and had gotten into their house. One of the first times that Longo released Peanut out into the wild again, something attacked Peanut and got part of his tail knocked off. So Peanut came back. Now, Longo over the past 7 years has always said that it was very hard to raise a squirrel. And he said many times, and I heard him say many times, that he advised against ever having a squirrel as a pet. There are several states here in the United States that allow people to have squirrels as pets. One of those states is Idaho. Everybody that I have ever seen that's had squirrels in their house for any reason said, don't do it. Don't do it. There was one family that had prairie dogs in their house. They had a hard time having those prairie dogs as pets as well. And yet they were domesticated, allegedly. But New York doesn't allow it at all. There is no license that you can get to have a squirrel in your house. Now, Longo and Danny, his wife, Mark Longo and his wife, had applied to get an animal rehabilitation license. But that in and of itself would not prevent or allow Longo to have Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon in their house. There isn't a law to protect that. But there is a law that you can't do it. Even though Danny and Mark had applied for those licenses as a rehabilitation facility, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation had known that they had applied for those licenses. And they took a test. Both of them took a test. Both of them passed that test. The Department of Environmental Conservation knew this, and yet they raided the Longo's home. They tore it apart. They tore it apart. Do you think finding a squirrel in a woman's makeup drawer would be possible? No. I saw pictures of their house completely ransacked. The state law enforcement officers tore the house apart. And as I said before in 2 different previous episodes of this program, one this weekend, law enforcement officers acted like state troopers, state paratroopers. They came in as SWAT, Special Weapons and Tactics. These state law enforcement officers would not allow Danny and her husband into the house for 5 hours. They questioned Danny and her citizenship in the United States. They were not allowed to ask those kind of questions. They were state law enforcement, not federal law enforcement, and they were not immigration people. And yet they questioned Danny Longo for hours. So they violated her rights. They violated his rights. They ransacked their home. New York State law enforcement is going to be in one heck of a lot of trouble. And this thing is going to go to court. It's probably going to start going into court within the next 2 weeks. And then you're going to hear more and more stuff come out. And New York State law enforcement is going to be getting a huge black eye. And Democrat Kamala Harris may also come up in this. How? Because Kamala Harris did not want law enforcement at all. She wanted to disband law enforcement completely. So she may get beat up in this as well. Whether she's the nominee or she is the incumbent president or not, she's going to get beat up. We'll see what happens. But anyway, guys, what I'm saying right now is get out and vote. Do what you can to help President Trump. He needs it. Now, I will be back on the air at 6 p.m. with more information for you as to what's going on. And at 7 o'clock, the polls close here on the East Coast. And I will be be able to give you more information about exactly what is going on. Carol, is there anything else that you think we need to talk about?
But I know.
Okay, Carol says no, she doesn't think there's anything else. Yeah, it's very upsetting, guys. It's very upsetting.
Read all the comments.
Yes, we do need to turn California and Oregon and Washington into red country to help support the Lord. Because the Democrats are not Christian. I honestly, guys, this is my opinion, and you can take it or leave it for what it is. It's my opinion that Democrats are not Christian. And I have reason to believe that. How can you be a true Christian and vote for abortion? Abortion is not allowed. Abortion is the taking of a life. So if you're a Christian and you're a Democrat, you need to reassess your priorities. You cannot possibly be Democrat and go by Democrat policies. It's impossible. You know, I just don't believe that. It's funny. Well, actually, it's not that funny. But years ago, I drove in a church parking lot in Littleton, Colorado, where I went to church. There was a huge bumper sticker on the back of somebody's car espousing the Democrat Party. And I thought, how can someone who espouses their Christianity be a Democrat? It's impossible. It's just impossible. Yes, Hurricane Heather, illegal search and seizure. You're absolutely right. And Matthew Carlin is talking about Kamala Harris and NBC getting sued for Harris coming on Saturday Night Live and being part of a skit on Saturday Night Live. NBC's not supposed to allow that. The Federal Communications Commission guidelines say that television networks have to give equal airtime to the other candidate. And at this point in time, that would be impossible. And yet, NBC allowed Kamala Harris to come on the air. Incredible. So NBC is going to be sued by the network, or NBC Network is going to be sued by the federal government, and then they're also going to be sued by the Republican Party. And other people are also going to sue them. It wouldn't surprise me to see that President Trump goes and sues Kamala Harris for being on Saturday Night Live and also suing NBC for doing the same thing, allowing it. Yes, Linda, Pennsylvania Amish are also supporting Trump. And that brings up another issue. If you guys didn't know it, Michigan has a lot of Islamic people. And the same thing with Wisconsin. Well, guess what? The head imam in Wisconsin told the Islamic people here in the United States to support President Trump. So now the Islamic people are also supporting President Trump. So Kamala Harris is not getting any support from the Islamic people like she thought she had. Now, the Islamic congresswomen in Congress are also not supporting Kamala Harris. Isn't that interesting? The Islamic congresswomen in Congress are not supporting Kamala Harris. So this is going to be a very interesting thing in the coming weeks and months, or even days. Okay, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Yes, Hurricane Heather, the FCC did say it was illegal. I personally have seen the law. It is absolutely illegal for Kamala Harris to do what she did. And at the time that happened, okay, and that happened, campaign appearance, and she made a and told the Air Force pilot in charge of Air Force 2 that night to turn around and head for New York. She was going to be on Saturday Night Live. So it was purposeful. It was absolutely purposeful. Crazy. Totally crazy. Anyway, guys, I'm going to let you go. I hope you have a good rest of the afternoon. I will be back on the air here on EMA. I'll be back on the air in approximately 3 hours. So I hope you have a good evening, good afternoon. We will see you this evening with more information about Election Day 2024, supposedly our Liberation Day. Have a good afternoon, guys. We love you. Take care, everyone. See you soon.